Hello, nerds. Nerds for Humanity. We're going to do our weekly Andrew Yang for New York Mayor race update. We're going to go over betting odds, latest polling. We're going to unpack that poll deep. We are going to look at search trends, Twitter trends. We'll see how he's stacking up to Eric Adams and Maya Wiley. Look at whatever drama is coming up. But before we do that, we got to warm it up with Andrew himself.
There's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the Yang Gang. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up. Yo, there's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and Drew.
Hello, nerds. Nerds for Humanity. Been a while. Busy week. Hope everybody's doing okay. Big news on my side is I got my first shot of the Moderna vaccine a couple weeks ago. Very excited about that. If you are in a state where you're still waiting for your age group to get called up, like I was, you can go to your local pharmacy. And not everyone will do this, but the one near me was willing to. And you can just say, hey, I'd like to be, is there any space on your wait list or your disuse list? And basically when they have a clinic and they open up a vial and people don't show up, they either have to toss it because it's only good for a few hours. So if you can get on that wait list, if you're interested in getting the vaccine a little early, that's the way to do it. At least it worked for me. So excited about that. Yeah, Lukey says, Lukey needs to get the vaccine done too. Yeah, I have to say, even though I only had my first shot, I feel so much more comfortable going to the supermarket, or sometimes I'm walking and there's a bunch of unmasked people just jabbing away. And I used to be like, oh, come on. And now I'm like, look, you do your thing. At least I'm going to have my protection. I still wear my mask. But, you know, something to think about if you're interested. And side effects were not terrible. Kind of like the flu shot. Just felt a little under weather the first day. And then was fine the next day. So where are you guys joining from? Today, as many of you know, I'm coming to you from, I hate to say it, but another beautiful day in Northern California. I am loving the weather we have here. It is just gorgeous. I don't have my phone on me to kind of give you like a little weather report, but let me just see. Let's see, weather. So it's 63 degrees now in Northern California, and it's going to be a high of 60. Oh, it's going to be a high of 69 today, and then tomorrow it's going to get all the way up to 80. So nice sunny day. All right, so you guys came here because we're going to talk about the campaign. Tybee says congrats on getting the vaccine. Young man Logan is joining us from LA. Gordon Mofo joining from Alexandria, Virginia. Young man's on his way to work. Sorry you got to go to work, bro. But hopefully we'll catch you on replay, young man. All right. Maria is here early. You are. We're about to get into the data. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, Nerds Abstract. All right. Let's see if I can share. Oh, Azrael Aim is from the PNW, the Pacific Northwest. I spent many years of my life in the great city of Seattle, Washington, and loved it there. Although I must say, the sunshine in California, that's legit. Okay, share. Let us take a look-see This is the latest poll that was just wrapped up on April 5th. I guess it took them a little while to get some of their data back. Whoopsie daisy. Hold on. I got you. There we go. We're back in business. All right. This was about 1,000 people, I think. And Jay Sheck is joining us from NYC. Don't forget to participate in the primary. Hopefully you're registered. That is in 66 days, I believe. Okay, margin of error is 3%, so pretty accurate. And let's see if the primary was held tomorrow and these were the candidates, for whom would you vote? Andrew Yang, numero uno, followed by, looks like Eric Adams, numero dos. Then you've got a tie for third between Maya Wiley and Scott Stringer. I mean, Scott Stringer is technically a little higher. No one is only 14. So previous polls had showed a much larger number of people who were undecided. So that's means that the Yang lead is kind of tightening up in terms of locking in that 13-point advantage over Adams. Yang has a little more support from males than females, but he's still about 1 out of 4 females is supportive of the Yang. He's doing a little better with under 45 than over 45 in terms of the, although he's number 1 for the over 45s, he's number 1. Wow, for the under 45s, he's crushing it. He's 30-8. For males, he's the leader. For females, he's the leader. Overall, he's the leader. No college, he's the leader. College, he's the leader. Asian, he's 41 to, looks like 6 on Maya Wiley. He's leading with black voters, which is amazing, 25-22. He is leading with Hispanics, 19-14. And for the white people, he's leading with them, 29-18. So, I mean, if there's a front runner in his race, his name is Andrew M.F. Yang. So, congrats. Round of applause to the Yang campaign, man. Nicely done, Mr. Yang. All right, let's see. What about second choice? Who is the most popular second choice? His name is Andrew M.F. Yang. 31% of people have him as their second choice, followed by Adams and Stringer. For females, also number 1 second choice. For males, number 1 second choice. Under 45, number 1. 45 and older, number 1. No college, number 1. College, number 1. Asian, 48-25. Whoa, who's the number 2? Oh, what interesting. The Asians, if they're not going to get their Yang, they're going to go for someone completely outside of the group. For blacks, number 1 second choice. Eric Adams is the number 2 second choice. Hispanics, okay. Hispanics, Yang is not as strong for second choice. He's technically number 1, but it looks like Maya Wiley is right, almost tied, basically. And for the white people, Yang's the number 1 second choice. So, very nicely done, Mr. Yang. What about third choice? That's where Yang is not the top dog. Eric Adams is the number 1 third choice. Overall, he's the number 1 third choice for females. He is the number 1 third choice with males, tied with Yang and Donovan. That's the first time I see Donovan's name come up. But being number 1 for third choice is not exactly an awesome thing. Stringer is the number 1 for under 45 third choice. Adams is 45 and older third choice. no college. Wiley's for college grads. So for third choice, you see a little stronger. That's where Adams starts to kind of show a little more strength. I don't think that should impact things, even though it is ranked choice voting, since Yang has such a strong first and second choice representation. I don't know if the third choice is really going to affect. In a scenario where Yang and Stringer advance to a final round, how would you vote? And you've got Yang over Stringer 60-40 when people are only given two choices. In a scenario, this is also Yang's ahead, but where Yang and Adams were the only two choices, you've got Yang at 59, Adams at 41, but it's pretty close. Pretty close. Well done to Yang to get 48% of African Americans and 52% of Hispanics. And then he's got 70% of the whites and 84% of the Asians. So he stacks up pretty strong against Adams. Against Wiley, almost 70-30. Where is Wiley strongest? Wiley is strongest with college grads, getting 40% to Yang's 60%, but he's still getting obviously more than her. And then he would pretty much crush Donovan, 73-27. Then there's a bunch of questions about comptroller. So I think TLDR on this, if you believe this poll, and that's a big if, because we know that polls are not, perfect, but Yang's been leading in every poll I've seen since he's basically run. And the only difference is the number of undecideds has gone down, but they're being distributed fairly evenly, if not even more so for Yang. So this is pretty sweet, man. This is pretty sweet. Okay, now that was the polling. How about we look at news coverage? Before we do that, I'll just highlight some of our chat participants here. Looks like Maria is saying that he's starting to recover. Because, I think the previous poll, he was not quite as strong. He was still in the lead, but not as strong. And Jay Sheck is definitely registered to vote. He's going to get the whole family involved. Azriel and Austin were very happy to see these polling results. The Beaver is saying, wow, he's beating Wiley among blacks. He is. So there you go, man. And Douglas had out. You're welcome for doing this. I do this. Look, we all know it's a very small, intimate group, the Nerds for Humanity channel. There's only 28 people watching right now. And we might get a few hundred watching us on replay. But I know there's a small but very important and passionate group that values this stuff, so I'm going to keep doing it. And I especially want to thank all of our members for supporting the channel and providing a little bit of financial support for the streaming software, for the podcast hosting fees, for the video editing stuff, the photo editing for the thumbnails, the email accounts, all that stuff to run this channel. So thank you for supporting the channel, and if I can save up some more member money, we might do some ad campaigns to try and grow the channel and get some more big-time guests as well. Lukey Monster. Oh, thank you, Lukey. Appreciate it. All right, now let's look at the news coverage, shall we? All right, let's see here. Newsy coverage. New York Post, what do they say? Andrew Yang leads poll despite string of gaffes. What gaffes has he made? Let's see. Hey, Andrew, that looks like a happy man. Too many ads. Okay. This is talking about the survey that we just looked at. Okay. Observers believe the state of play may still shift substantially before the June 22nd primary. With the first debate slated for May, and the campaigns expected to begin spending their war chest in the coming weeks. So TLDR is, although we're leading in the polls, get ready. Put on your shoulder pads. It's about to get real, as they say, because you've got debates in May and tons of advertising in weeks leading up to the primary. All right. I don't see them referencing his gaffes. What in the Sam Hill is that? Interesting. So that's just, it looks like a New York Post kind of clickbaity title. Because they say all these gaffes, but then they don't talk about what they presumably are. They just say that he's leading in the polls and it'll tighten up. Okay, whatever. We like the fact that he's in the headline. Oh, I read this one. This was a tough editorial by Paul Krugman, who's a pretty smart dude. And I think his main argument is that he does not buy the notion that automation is replacing jobs or that productivity has grown significantly. And I think he does not buy the idea of the costs of a UBI. So this is another example of the New York Times is like, if you imagined yourself in the New York Times newsroom, there's not a lot of Yang in there. They definitely tend to be pretty hard on Yang, which is fine. Yang's a big boy. But yeah, for whatever reason, I feel like there may be some unconscious bias amongst the New York Times in that they're just not familiar with the guy. And he doesn't come out of like the machine that they're familiar with. Yang tweets about street vendors and ignores fury on the left. Yeah, Douglas Hanau says NY Post headlines are plain old clickbait. So what is this about street vendors? I think I saw some talk of this. Andrew Yang's opponents on the left have pledged to start dragging down the frontrunner. This week, they launched a potent new line of attack. Yang wants to crack down on street vendors. Yang has been taking hits from rival candidates as he continues to lead. They have begun painting the former presidential candidate, as too conservative for city politics and out of touch with liberal values. I always find it interesting. Too conservative. The guy supports a $1 billion basic income pilot for 500,000 of the poorest, lowest income New Yorkers, but somehow he's like a secret conservative. Any rate, after a weekend of attacks over remarks he made last year about abortion, Yang drew heavy fire for tweeting, "You know what I hear over and over again, that New York City is not enforcing rules against unlicensed street vendors. No one is saying this but you, NYC chapter of the Democratic Socialist Americas, which has not endorsed, tweeted on Sunday. We don't need more cops arresting street vendors." Okay. Scott Stringer denounced Yang's support for law enforcement. He wants to crack down on street vendors and send enforcement after immigrant communities. How can you claim to love New York City and want to throw hardworking New Yorkers in jail? Ooh. Ramos said she was hurt and offended by Yang. You can't be mayor of New York if you don't know how the city of New York works. Now, Yang then responds. He says, "I love street vendors. I'm supportive of measures to try and increase the number of licenses. I think we're all here on the same, we're all aligned on the policy side. And I regret that I took such a frankly complicated, nuanced issue on the medium. it wasn't the right medium for it. The street vendor flap followed an onslaught of criticism when a clip of a Feb 2020 interview surfaced on Twitter showing the former presidential candidate saying Democrats shouldn't be celebrating an abortion at any point in the pregnancy. Much of the heat against Yang comes from rival campaigns. Okay, so basically, where's the original tweet? Let's see for ourselves. What did the Yang say? Okay, he says, you know what I hear over and over again? That NYC is not enforcing rules against unlicensed vendors. I'm all for increasing licenses, but we should do more. Oh, see, I don't think the original news story included this part of the tweet, did it? Let's go see. So he's saying, I'm all for increasing it, but we should do more for the retailers who are paying rent and trying to survive. And then the news story here in Politico. Look at what it's only whatever, 280 characters. But this is what they put, this is what they're saying Yang said. NYC is not enforcing rules against unlicensed street vendors. It makes it sound like he's just like this sort of anti-street vendor guy. They basically skipped this whole sentence, which I think is pretty important part of the story. But for some reason, Politico, I guess maybe they're interested in just trying to they may not have anything against Yang, but this is how journalists, they like to kind of chip into the leader because it's more interesting. But in this case, they left out this sentence, which is, I'm for increasing licenses, but we should do more for the retailers who are paying rent and trying to survive. So if you only saw this story, you'd be like, wow, Yang's so anti-vendor. But he's really pro-small business that's paying rent, and he wants more licenses for street vendors. And then you have the NYC socialists basically saying, we don't need more cops arresting street vendors. No one is saying this but you. And then they have a video of a street vendor getting arrested. So, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you all think. Do you think this was fair coverage? Feels a little bit anti-Yang. Ooh, we got a super chat from Warren. Love from the land of maple syrup for fellow Taiwanese. I love it. I'm guessing that our buddy Warren is joining us from the great state of Vermont. Is that the land of maple syrup or is that Canada? I'm not sure, Warren. Let me know which part of maple syrup. Because I think Vermont's known for maple syrup, but I also know there's a huge maple syrup cartel up in Canada. And you don't want to mess with them. I get that. All right. What's that little dot there? Whatever. Okay. Let's go back. But thank you for the super chat, Warren. Appreciate it. Oh, he says Canada. That is the true land of maple syrup, not Vermont. Got you, my friend. All right, so another thing about missteps. Can he win in The Guardian? Warren says, look at the dollar sign. Yeah, I'm using some third-party streaming software, so I may not be able to see all of the annotations. Oh, sorry. No, it does say CA. You're right. Okay, let's see. The Guardian, talking about Yang's position has put a target on his back. Ooh. 2 days before Yang announced he was running, he made a remarkable admission. Oh, this is about how he went to upstate New York, and he was kind of catching slack for that. Then they talk about his tweet about unlicensed street vendors, which we just hit. Oh, and then there was a confession he made, the Yang confession about his dog, which caused quite a strife. I think this is where Yang said, oh, here's his tweet. On National Pets Day, celebrating our dog Grizzly, who we raised as a puppy. Ow, golly. What happened here? Goodness. Let's try this again. The ads that are bombarding me are just insufferable. That he gave away his pet dog Grizzly after his son became allergic. And that was quite controversial. Yeah, let's see if I can find that. Yang Dog Gate. No, that's not. Yang Dog Twitter. Okay, here's his tweet. Very controversial. On National Pets Day, celebrating Grizzly, who we raised as a puppy but had to give away because one of our boys became allergic to him. Miss you, Grizz. Dogs for Yang. He still remembers his daddy. And then John Dewey was very critical of Yang, saying, on National Pets Day, I will give an anecdote about how I gave away my dog instead of telling my kid to take a Benadryl. I don't know about that, John. I think if your child is truly allergic, I don't know if you want them to be taking Benadryl continuously. I don't think John Dewey's a big lover of the Yang. But at any rate, so that's a little bit of talk on the news. I think let's now look at, shall we look at social media trends? Oh, Lukey says, I feel dogs are too needy. Not all dogs are needy. I have a wonderful dog who's literally warming my feet as we speak. She's laying down under the desk. Nice soft fur. Quite comfortable. But yeah, that's the Yang Dog Gate stuff. Okay, now let's talk about, what is Yang are we going to go? Yeah, we're going to go look at social media. Okay, how is the Yang doing versus Maya Wiley and Eric Adams? Yang's got 2 million followers. But Maya Wiley has 420,000 and Eric Adams has 5,000. Eric Adams' Twitter game, not his forte, which is surprising because if you're running for mayor of the largest city in the country, you'd think you'd have a little bit of social media savvy. In terms of daily new followers, they're actually quite close. On April 16th, Yang lost a few hundred. Maya picked up a few hundred. Adams picked up 70. Yang's Twitter following has kind of been cutting back. I mean, there's a few days where he's picked up a few hundred, but there's also a few days where he's lost a few hundred. So it kind of depends on which day you look at, which explains why this chart here on his total followers is fairly flat. But it also shows that maybe Maya is growing a little bit, but Adams not a ton. I mean, he's growing a little bit too. Like from Jan 21 or Jan 5th. Adams never had a Twitter account, at least not the official campaign one, the Adams for New York. And Yang had 1.87 million in December. Maya had 386,000. Now Yang has 2 million. Maya has 419,000. And Adams has 5,500. So, that's the Twitter game. Let's look at search. Whoa, who's leading the search wars? Last 7 days, the blue line is our man Andrew Yang, and definitely more people searching for him than anyone else. Numero dos would be Eric Adams, followed by Stringer, and then Wiley. I would have thought there would be a little more Wiley action, but you can see from this green line that there has been a little bit of a pickup. Like, I think Wiley's definitely got some energy behind her candidacy. And then, what are people searching for when they search for Yang? What are the related queries? Definitely street vendors, Rochelle Walensky, a bunch of names, Sarah Tershwell, coronavirus, and Andrew Yang. When they search for Stringer, Working Families Party, and Morales. When they search for Adams, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Andrew Yang, Reggie Bullock, Nikola Vucevic. Maya Wiley, they're searching for who are the other candidates, and Diana Morales. Ray McGuire, they're searching for who else is running. Oh, Warren. Got another super chat from Warren. Hold on a second. Let's see if we can highlight what did Warren say. Any idea which candidate the teacher union picks? Let's see. Let's just take a quick look. NYC teacher union endorsement. I think it's called the EFT, is it? Let's see. April 9th, the UFT, sorry. United Federation of Teachers. Thanks again, Warren. They grill Final Four candidates. Who were they grilling? They grilled Adams, Stringer, Wiley, and Yang. Why did they order them that way? That's interesting. Yang's technically in the lead, but he's listed last. The Yang media blackout continues. They covered a range of topics. Okay, although Yang is leading in the early polls, he has come into conflict with the union over remarks he made to the Political, where he said that the schools were reopening too slow. During his presidential campaign, he described it as pro-charter, which is an anathema to the UFT. Stringer and Wiley have stronger alignment with the union. So it doesn't look like Yang really screwed up in the grilling, but it's hard to imagine the UFT endorsing him given that he's supportive of charter schools and supportive of a more expeditious reopening of schools. I think the key takeaway here is that during their lightning round thing, he could have said something stupid and they would have crucified him for it. So, at any rate, to answer your question, Warren, I think the UFT looks like they haven't made their endorsement yet, but he avoided, a real screw up at least, because it sounds like it was a pretty intense debate, and given that Yang hasn't thought, or maybe not thought, but he hasn't been kind of deeply soaked in New York City politics for decades, they could have asked him some gotcha questions that he could have missed, but sounds like he did okay. So congrats to Yang for that, but probably not going to get the endorsement if I were a betting man. Speaking of betting people, we should go over betting odds. Who do the gamblers think will win the mayoral race? I think last time we did this, if my recollection is right, he had about a 60% chance. I think that was the inference from the betting odds. But before we do that, let's give a thank you to the people who make this content possible. In addition to people like Warren, who's been hooking me up with the super chats. Again, thank you, Warren. We have our channel members, and if you're not a member, just click that join link. And our oldest and most supportive members, VLAM, JM Sap, Fat Lamb, Kristen Slevin, Soldier One. Hold on. There we go. Laura Lane, Patrick Dunn, Bike, and Mindful Skeptics. So thank you to our amazing VP level Nerds for Humanity supporters. And let's add now our hardcore. Mike Chang, Gene Lim, David, Tracy Mesa, DK, Phoenix Congress, Jekalego, Kirsch Thiva, Mr. History Fan, Byram Hess, Mona Burton, Susan Clifton, Yang Dang, Tony Perella, Robert Wu, Dean L, Stat Nerd, Galessa, Jay Perrin, Jay Bryan, Vivian Lynn, Dana, Flavio Lira, Yoda Fanny, and Jason Sherfy. And then finally, at our entry level, verified nerds, all of the money from our memberships goes to just supporting more content. So thank you guys for helping make nerd content possible. Helen, Lisa, Sugar, Albert, Brandon, Yes, Brian, Peter, Arez, Your Mom, and Sophia, Jedwiga, Gail, Shake and Make, Mike, Doris, Emerald, Lori, Ben, Roger, Lisa, Christina, Vaughn, Rasta, Richard, Jessica. Always does this. The scrolling always stops. James, Jalopy, Emma, Spirited, Hui, Stephen, Ira, Shoney, Philip, Jameson, Dr. A, William, Karen, Monica, Alex, Ardent, Mai, Semery, David, Ender, Brittany, Clyde, Wada, and Sasha. And to our newest members, let me just give a special shout out to our youngest members, our newest nerds, Yoda Fanny, Jason Sherfay, Flavio Lira, Sasha Alexandra, all less than 30 days old. Thank you. And yes, remember to hit that like button and also share it. So hello, Tamar. Thank you for reminding everybody about that. Hit that like button. Do it now. And if you somehow aren't a subscriber and are watching me live, which would be amazing, please subscribe. And if you want to join before we finish the live stream, I'll make sure I shout you out at the very end. Yes, we have been getting more members. Thank you, Lukey. Yeah, we're getting less views on the content. I think a lot of Yang Gang is a little petered out, and a lot of people in general are not super into news and stuff. I don't blame them. It's been kind of tough last 12 months, but I'm going to keep going because these members seem to value what we're doing. All right. Let's look at the... Ooh! We used to be 60% chance, and now we're at 68% chance with Adams at 15 and Stringer at 10, Maya Wiley at 7. This is looking good, folks. And this makes sense. As we get closer and closer, I think we're only about 60 days away from that NYC Democratic primary. And if this dude, Andrew M.F. Yang, is in the lead, and he continues to be in the lead, and no one's catching up to him so far, you know, he's always one gaffe away from like a big controversy, but so far, people seem to be giving him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to saying that he supports local businesses that are paying rent. They are giving him the benefit of the doubt when he's saying that he had to give his dog away because his son got allergies, and people don't think that he should have been giving his son's Benadryl 24 hours a day, which I think makes complete sense. I love dogs, but if I had to choose between my dog and my son's allergies, I would choose my son's health. And there seem to be giving him the benefit of the doubt on going to upstate New York during the lockdown. Now, Warren is saying, hey, be careful. predicted had Hillary around the same odds for 2016. That is true. Hillary had great odds going in. So the odds, now the thing about statistics is you could have a 90% chance of having something happen, and you can absolutely find instances where it doesn't happen, but that doesn't mean that the probability was incorrect. The probability may have been spot on. So finding evidence of, one instance where the probability does not come out right doesn't mean that we should ignore probabilities in general. But I agree with you that 68% chance does not mean guaranteed, and we should take nothing for granted, as Jay Perrin is also encouraging us to remember. Yes. Okay. Yeah, there's also the risk that people don't vote. We need everybody in the Yang Gang to show up, get all your friends to vote. Because as Lukey says, remember Iowa. Yes, Iowa sucked. Okay, next, I'm going to do a shout out to some of our latest OTP candidates. So as some of you know, I am a co-founder of the People Project. That's ofthepeople.us. You can see it right here, ofthepeople.us. And we have some new candidates that are listed. We have Sass running for the U.S. House of Representatives, pro-UBI. Check him out. Sammy Ravello running for Bronx Borough President. He is also Yang Gang, and he is Latino and also former NYPD and former veteran. So it brings a really unique perspective. Understands the Dominican working class kind of community very well. You have Justin Foster running for county clerk, who comes from the tech industry, but he's a progressive moderate. And then Christy Seelock running for state representative, also pro-UBI in Oklahoma. There's many more candidates on ofthepeople.us. If you are interested in supporting... Oh, what happened here? We got some support here. Let's see. I think that was a delayed reaction from the previous super chat from Warren. So you got another little shout out there. Warren became a member. Thank you, Warren. Let me give you a bell for becoming a member. Welcome, Warren. New member of the Nerds channel. All right. Who do I think AOC will endorse? If she endorses anybody, it won't be Yang. If I had to guess, maybe Maya Wiley, but she might just stay out of it, which is probably the best we can hope for, because it's very unlikely she'd endorse the Yang. Okay, so check out ofthepeople.us, and if you know of anyone running for office that isn't listed here, tell them to list themselves, because it's free. This is a whole nonprofit. All people that built this site are volunteers, and it'll just help you get some more exposure. And then, people can click on your specific profile and they can see a little more information. They have a link to your website, that kind of thing. So it's just free exposure. You can sort by policy issues and see who else is supporting UBI. And there you go. All right, now let's do a quick Ask Me Anything. So if you have any questions for me, or you want me to highlight some stuff in the chat, go ahead and put them in the chat while I'm waiting for any potential questions for me. Don't forget to like, and let me just give you some highlights of what I've been tweeting about. And you can follow me on Twitter at Nerds4Yang. I wasn't able to change my Twitter handle to Nerds for Humanity in terms of the actual handle. The name is now Nerds for Humanity. What have I been tweeting about? Okay, well, I'm about to tweet about this live stream. Then I was looking for some front-end developers, just some more volunteers for OTP, for Of the People. And then I'm trying to get Liz Smith, who is starting a PAC, a political action committee, to help get Yang elected. And I would like to interview her on this channel on the Nerd Show. So her handle is @Liz_Smith. And there's 46 people that already favorited it, 5 retweets. So if you want to help me encourage Liz, because Liz is active on Twitter. I see that she has retweeted some stuff just a few hours ago. So she's active. So if we can just encourage Liz. She was a former advisor to Pete Buttigieg and now running a pro-Yang PAC. Would love to find out what she's up to, a little more about her, what the PAC's going to be doing. So basically, sometimes the people who aren't familiar with this channel, when I ask them to come onto the show, they're like, I don't know what the hell Nerds for Humanity is. So if you could let her know that you appreciate the show and you'd like to see her on, that's another reason why it's good to get member support, because when we get more member support, all that money, anything that goes over my operating costs, I'm going to put into some advertising campaigns to grow our audience, so that when we ask people who are busy to come on the show, they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, Nerds for Humanity, you guys have 25,000 subs or something. Right now we have 18,000 subs on YouTube. So then I was tweeting about, the first radical MAGA guilty plea. And it turns out, big shocker, that this gentleman was an oath keeper, and surprise, surprise, he was not Antifa dressed up as MAGA, but he was real MAGA. I know a lot of the radical MAGA people are saying, and in fact, I saw a poll that said a majority of Republicans, or almost half of Republicans, believe that the January 6th Capitol insurrection was actually a secret plot by Antifa, dressed up as MAGA people to look like MAGA people, to make MAGA look bad. But turns out the first person to plead guilty is a real MAGA heavy metal guitarist with ties to the Oath Keepers. Another story about a quick reaction force that was waiting for order to storm the Capitol with a stash of long guns, according to a Justice Department investigation. These also were not Antifa people. They were just really hardcore Trump supporters. This is about a new Treasury Department document showing that, surprise, surprise, that the Trump campaign was sharing polling data with Russian spies before the 2016 election. This is me welcoming Sass to the OTP. Are you down with OTP? Yeah, you know me. Oh, this is great. The Fauci Jordan exchange. I might react to that if you guys are interested. But let me jump in and see if there's any comments I should highlight before I wrap it up with a reaction to Fauci versus Jordan. Let's see here. Let's see what we got in the chat in case I should highlight anything. Tamar says, I am teachers union. We have charter schools in my state. I would not run to charter school for work, but in general, charter schools are seen as optics. Lukey Monster, I think, was referring to Sass's purple hair. Man of progress. Earl is saying AOC doesn't like Yang. She'll endorse. Yeah, that would be my expectation. Jay Perrin is saying, I almost passed on voting in my local elections. It was painful given my attention to it. OTP is very necessary. Thank you, Jay Perrin. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I should give a quick shout out to the people that make OTP possible, because OTP is all volunteer, and all of our Amazon Web Services, GitHub, email services are paid for by supporters. So we have a volunteer team of product development. And there's actually more volunteers I need to add to this list. But then we have a lot of great financial supporters, including Eric Sanchez, who used to be the head of comms for Yang 2020, Tohir, Elizabeth, Tony, Rock, Aaron, Byram, Sugar, Rob, John, thank you, John, Thrive, Timothy, Steph, Jessica, Trickle Up, Iggy, Brian, Kimberly, Omar, Muhan, and Jean. So appreciate all of that support. So now let's go back. Miss Daisy, my dog, is making a lot of noise. So let me let her out of the room, and I'll be right back. But while I do that, yes, I will save Warren's comment that he hopes that AOC will not endorse. I think if you are pro-Yang, generally less involvement from AOC the better, because she's probably not going to be a big basic income supporter, at least so far. So if she endorses anybody, it's not going to be Yang. That's probably going to eat into Yang's lead. So there you have it. Why doesn't AOC like Yang? Yeah, you know, I think it's a very good question. I think primarily she sees basic income as a threat to large government programs like Green New Deal. And it's hard to imagine America affording a robust basic income policy and a massive federal jobs guarantee type thing. I just don't think we could pull off both. And she falls on the side of the latter and not the former. That's, I think, the main thing. I mean, there's other theories, which is, you know, he's kind of popular, she's kind of popular. Sometimes popular people like to be the most popular. But, you know, who knows? Maybe she'll come around. I think if she were supportive of Yang, that combination, the Yang AOC combo, whew, could do some damage. All right. Yeah, Lukey's saying, why don't progressive leaders like each other? I don't know, man. I mean, they're all human, for one thing. And they are very passionate, and they feel really strongly about their views. And so, you know, UBI isn't for everybody. Renee saying, hey, I thought AOC said she was for UBI. You know, maybe. But I think if she were asked if she would support UBI versus Green New Deal or a federal jobs guarantee, I think UBI would lose in her book. And I think in Yang's book, UBI would probably win. Lukey saying, I like Fauci. I like Fauci too. The one thing I will say about Fauci and the public health kind of advice we got was I think there was a ambivalence around masks in the spring of 2020. And I think it was affected by the mask shortage for first responders and hospital employees. And so I think part of the reason they didn't encourage public wearing masks is they were worried. Remember how everybody went out buying toilet paper and there was no toilet paper for a while. So if they told everybody to get a mask, people may have hoarded masks, and that would have resulted in hospital providers not having access to important PPE. That said, they went even further saying, oh, there's no proof that masks are helpful. And that was where I kind of felt like, they could have just said nothing, but they kind of actively downplayed masks. And Fauci was part of that conversation. So, but overall, I think Fauci's doing his best. And, we know a lot more about this virus now than we did in, March of 2020. How likely are we going to be in a runoff against Stringer? That's a great question. And Adams, for that matter. I'm not sure what the NYC mayoral rules are for runoff. How much does Yang need to get? Looks like, there's a primary. Here we go. Let's take a look together. Share. Hold on. In the city of New York, when no one candidate receives 40% or more of the votes. Oh, yeah, because based on those latest polls, Homeboy has 26. That's definitely not 40. Now, you could argue with RCV, since he is the number one second choice, he could inherit, let's say he inherits a bunch of Donovan, McGuire, Morale, maybe Garcia. That's still only 10. Yeah. It will, I would have to believe that this is probably going to go to a runoff. So, but the good news is we know that when it does go into a runoff, and it will most likely be with Adams, that Yang would get 59, and if he's in a runoff against Stringer, he would get 61. If he's a runoff against Wiley, he'll get 68. So if you see Yang get into a runoff, do not panic. We got this. We got this. Okay. Douglas Hanau says Stringer is toast. Yeah, I think it's really Adams, maybe Wiley, and a surprise. That would be the most likely kind of challenger. All right. So I think we're going to wrap this up with a reaction. Let's do a quick reaction to this Fauci thing, if I can find it, because I found it very entertaining, to be honest with you. And yes, thank you for the likes. I saw we got some recent likes on this stream. Please like and share so more people can discover it. Oh, we're going to have to run an ad. Okay, I'll mute that. So basically, while we're warming up this video, the takeaway is that Fauci and Jim Jordan often trade spars, and they jab or they spar in Congress. And I think that they're not, Jordan, like any congressman, is not really trying to ask the witness questions. It's almost like a rant or a speech. But let's just watch them discuss. Hold on a second. Share. All right, here we go. We're going to go back to the beginning.
Message, Congressman Jordan, is to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as we possibly can to get the level of infection in this country low, that it is no longer a threat. That is when. And I believe when that happens, you will see.
What determines when?
I'm sorry.
What measure? I mean, are we just going to continue this forever, or when do we get to the point? What measure? What standard? What objective outcome do we have to reach before Americans get their liberty and freedoms back?
You know, you're indicating liberty and freedom. I look at it as a public health.
All right. So basically, hopefully you guys can hear the audio. But let me know in the chat if you can't. Otherwise, okay, good. Maria confirmed. Thank you, Maria. Thanks, Earl. So basically, it's all about the question. Yes, I agree, Lukey. Jordan definitely seems rude. Yeah, Jordan is not, like, if Jordan were to come home and be dating your daughter, you would be like, why is my daughter dating this dick, right? But that is Jordan for you. And he's basically presenting a false choice. He's saying, hey, when will we poor victims get our freedom back? As if Fauci is like purposely suppressing people's freedom. Like, as a reminder, 500,000 people have died from this virus in the U.S. alone. I think worldwide we're about 3 million dead. 3 million people dead in about, 18 months. So, yes, we are doing our best to kind of fight this thing, and it does mean we make sacrifices. Like during World War II, there were a lot of sacrifices made. I don't think anybody said, like, when are Americans going to get their freedom back? It's like, well, when we win the war. So at any rate, let's see. And you can judge for yourself if Jordan is being reasonable and authentic and really wants to get to the truth.
Health measure to prevent people from dying and going to the hospital.
You don't think Americans' liberties have been threatened the last year, Dr. Fauci? They've been assaulted. Their liberties have.
I don't look at this as a liberty thing.
So Jordan is saying that Americans have been assaulted and their liberties have been assaulted because of the public health measures that we've kind of taken in some states to try and fight this virus, which has killed 500,000 people.
Thing, Congressman Jordan.
Well, that's
I look at
obvious.
this as a public health thing.
But
I disagree with you on that.
You think the Constitution is suspended during a virus, during a pandemic? It's certainly not.
This will end.
All right, so now Jordan is saying that Fauci is trying to suspend the Constitution. Now, I'm not sure what part of the Constitution Jordan is responding to, but I don't think there's anything in there that says that people have a right to infect and kill their neighbors with virus by coughing all over them and not wearing a mask in public gatherings. Like, you have to wear clothes, you know, no shirts, no shorts, no service. Remember that? Where are all the radical MAGA talking about that stuff? Isn't that their freedom? Shouldn't you be able to walk around naked with the 50 caliber machine gun? So clearly this is like, just because we're in the middle of a global pandemic and we want to reduce the number of infections, so wear a freaking mask and distance and don't congregate in large groups indoors during a period where thousands of Americans are dying every day, that is not the same as suspending the Constitution.
For sure, when we get the level of infection very low, it is now at such a high level, there's a threat again of major surges.
Dr. Fauci, over the last year, Americans' First Amendment rights have been completely attacked. Your right to go to church, your right to assemble, your right to petition your government, freedom of the press, freedom of speech have all been assaulted. I mean, for a year now.
Assaulted.
Americans haven't been able to go to church. Even today, when they go to church, they're limited in the size of worshipers who can meet.
It is true that if you go to church, you should probably distance, and I just don't get that. Like, why is that so terrible that you should distance and limit the size of gatherings? There's no place in the Constitution that says you can just ignore public health and kind of kill your neighbor in the name of your freedom to express your religion. I think the Constitution is more about you can't really ban one religion or you can't suppress another religion in favor of another one, or you shouldn't really mix them. But yes, if you pack a bunch of people into a small church in the middle of winter during a global pandemic unmasked, that doesn't seem very Christ-like.
Your right to assemble? Oh, my goodness. We had a curfew last fall in Ohio. You had to be in your home at 10. In Pennsylvania, you had to be in your home. When you're in your home, you had to wear a mask. In Vermont, when you were in your home, you didn't have to wear a mask, Dr. Fauci, because you weren't allowed to have people over to your house.
Yeah, Congressman Jordan.
Your ability to petition your government, for a year, American citizens haven't been able to come to their capital to petition their government, to talk to their representatives, and freedom of the press. These very pictures that Representative Scalise just showed you and talked about, guess what? The press isn't allowed in those facilities. The press is not, the Biden administration will not let the press in there. And certainly freedom of speech. I mean, governor of our third largest state meets with physicians, and that video is censored.
The thing I don't understand is if the alternative is more people dying and contracting a deadly, not only a deadly virus, but a lot of doctors are talking about long COVID. So my neighbor, his brother-in-law, 6 months has recovered from COVID, still cannot have any sense of taste or smell. I interviewed a pulmonologist on this channel a few months ago, and she was talking about amputations, about 30-year-old like marathon runners not being able to walk across a hallway without losing their breath months after they quote unquote recovered. So I get the frustration that we all wish we could go to restaurants and be unmasked and have like concerts, and yeah, nobody likes these mitigation steps, but to suggest that it's all some secret conspiracy to like attack the Constitution is just ludicrous.
Because they dare to disagree with Dr. Fauci? So I just want to know, when do Americans get their First Amendment liberties back?
You know, I don't think anything was censored because they felt they couldn't disagree with me. I think you're making this a personal thing, and it isn't.
It's not a personal thing.
No, you are. That is exactly what you're doing.
No, your recommendations carry a lot of weight, Dr. Fauci. We just had the chair of the Financial Services Committee said she loves you and you're the greatest thing in the world.
My recommendations are consistent.
Will the gentleman yield?
No, it's my
Now,
time.
could I answer the question, please? My recommendations are not a personal recommendation. It's based on the CDC guidance, which is
And I'm asking the question,
underscored.
what measures have to be attained before Americans get their First Amendment liberties back?
I just told you that.
No, you haven't given anything specific. You said, we hope when this tell me specifically.
Right
what measures have to be reached.
now, we have about 60,000 infections a day, which is a very large risk for a surge. We're not talking about liberties. We're talking about a pandemic that has killed 560,000 Americans.
I get
That's
that,
what we're
Doc.
talking about.
And I don't disagree with that, and I understand how serious that is, but I also understand it's pretty serious when businesses have been shut down, people can't go to church, people can't assemble in their own homes with their friends, with their families, people can't...
Here's the irony. If there was more adherence to public health mitigations earlier, we could have probably avoided some of the most extreme lockdowns. You look at like South Korea, you look at Singapore, you look at Taiwan, you look at Japan. They didn't completely shut down the way we had to in many states because they were willing to do the early steps. And so it's just the great irony that people like Jim Jordan are like moaning and complaining about the extreme measures that we had to take because it was them who refused to do anything in the early days, who said it was a hoax, who said it was just going to go away magically, and that anybody who wore a mask was just afraid. And now you complain that we have to do these more extreme public health measures in the midst of a surge? Like, come on, man. Don't complain because you didn't want to participate and now you're mad. We're all mad. You know what? I'm mad at the people who didn't cooperate early.
Go to a loved one's funeral. People can't get to their government, petition their representative to redress their grievances. Right. I also understand the First Amendment's pretty darn important, and it's been a year, and I want to know when Americans will get those First Amendment liberties back.
Right. You just said people cannot assemble in their own homes. They can. That's a CDC recommendation for vaccinated
Not last fall they couldn't.
I didn't hear.
Not last fall they couldn't.
I didn't hear what he said.
The gentleman's time has expired. I'll give you one instance of when we can get...
No, I have to say, as much as I find Jordan annoying, and he reminds me of some of the most kind of annoying people from high school, you know, those people that were just jerks. I I think Clyburn, the dynamic and energy between Clyburn and Jordan is interesting. But let's watch on because this gets fun.
Our liberty is back. It's when 90% of the members of the United States Congress get vaccinated.
Well, I want to know if that's what Dr. Fauci, is it 90%,
That's what
Dr. Fauci? Is it 90%? That's what I'd like to know. Give us some objective standards versus when certain things get reached, we might be able to get back to having our liberty. When? What are the numbers?
Well,
You're going to see a gradual, right now we're at an unacceptably high level. On a daily basis, it's unacceptably high, regardless of who you are. What you're going to see as more and more people get vaccinated, and we get over 3 million people a day, you're going to see the level of infection come down, and gradually there will be more flexibility for doing the things that you're talking about.
Where does it get to? When it comes down, what number do we get our liberties back? Tell me.
All right. Now, this is a really important moment here because what you have is you have Jordan trying to set a trap and Fauci refusing to step into it. What is that trap? Jordan is basically saying, give me a number. Give me a point where everybody gets to go back to normal. And the reason why it's a trap is because it's almost impossible to know. And the reason why it's impossible to know is there's so many other factors that need to be contemplated that we have no idea about. So as an example, if Fauci said, oh, well, as soon as the death rate goes under 500 a day, what happens if it goes under 500 a day, but you see a surge in number of cases? And we know that the death rate is a lagging indicator. Then he's not going to be able to recommend lifting mitigations. And then Jordan's going to say, aha, you lied. You told me in April in the same room, 500, and guess what the number is? 427, and you still haven't done it. You're a liar, Fauci, right? And then if Fauci says, well, okay, as long as the, the number of cases goes under a certain number. But what happens if we see increase in mutations? Maybe we can't loosen the reins just yet. So there's so many factors. And this virus is evolving and mutating and replicating as we speak. And we don't know about the state of vaccinations and how long the vaccines are going to kind of sustain their efficacy. So to try and force Fauci to give a specific number, it's sort of like when my kids ask me, oh, hey, if I get what grades, will you then take me to Disneyland? If I give them a number, but then they end up hitting that grades for their report card, but they burned down the house or they were very disrespectful, then I want the right to say, look, in the totality of the situation, it doesn't make sense to go to Disneyland. And similarly, I think we got to give our public health folks a little bit of latitude to look at the full situation, the state of the economy, the state of international virus rates, state of travel, the state of virus mutations, vaccinations, adherence, geographical spread. So Jordan's asking for a very simple answer to a question that is way too complex.
The number. Tell me the number.
And by the way, I'm pretty sure Jordan knows that Fauci can't give him a number, which is why Jordan keeps asking Fauci for the number.
When 90% of the members of Congress get vaccinated.
But you're not a doctor, Mr. Clyburn. He is. What is the number?
I can't
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Clyburn. Thank you.
Chair now
for giving me the
recognizes
time.
for 5
I'd
minutes.
like my question
Ms.
answered.
Maloney.
I don't want.
Reclaiming my time.
I want a
Reclaiming my
question.
time.
Regular order.
No,
Just a moment.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want you to answer my question. The American people want Dr. Fauci to answer the
Well-
question. What does it have to be?
Expire, sir. You need to respect the chair and shut your mouth.
Don't worry about that.
You need to respect the chair and shut your mouth. Oh, my God. Dude, this Congress is so messed up. How do we get anything done with this collection of individuals? Or it's like a high school cafeteria.
This, we're going to handle this, and I think Mr. Jordan knows me very well, and he knows full well that we're going to handle this.
This is great. Where Clyburn, I basically think Clyburn is saying, oh, your antics, like, there's going to be consequences, and I'm not going to put up with this shite. But let's watch it again, because I think it's great, where there's like this spat, and Clyburn's like, oh, we're going to handle this. Don't you worry about that. We're going to handle this.
Very well, and he knows full well that we're going to handle this. Your time has expired, and the chair now recognizes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Maloney.
All right, I think that's enough of the reaction. But I just wanted to share. I thought that was very enjoyable. I've watched it twice now, and yeah, the TLDR is that people like Jim Jordan are trying to oversimplify and turn this into the radical libs, the snowflakes are trying to attack the Constitution and take away your freedom, because that gets them reelected and that gets them more money from their radical MAGA supporters. And the reality for Fauci is like, this is a hard problem. It's complicated. It's deadly. Just because people survive doesn't mean there aren't massive long-term risks. And, you ask around, man. Everybody knows someone who's gotten COVID, and ask them if everything's back to normal. And you'll find that a non-trivial number have long-term issues. And there have been studies of Wuhan survivors with problems with their memory and problems with their mental acuity. And I think part of it is, again, you go look on my channel for my interview. I'll show you, just so you know I'm not like making this up. But if you're interested in this topic, I highly recommend that you check out, if you go to YouTube and you go to my channel, Nerds for Humanity, and then you go and search under videos for, let's see, is there an effing way? Hold on, is this being covered up? All right, let's say Nerds for Humanity COVID. I've done a lot of COVID. Here it is. Watch this video. It's called, If You Think COVID-19 is Just the Flu, Watch This. It's from July 2020 from a board-certified ICU doctor, Johns Hopkins Medical School graduate, Dr. Sukar from Northern Virginia. I'm going to put a link in the live chat. Check that out, and she will tell you very clearly, as a doctor, first-hand experience, that people who get COVID and survive, many of them have serious complications long after they have, quote-unquote, beat COVID. It's called long COVID. It's called COVID lung, COVID brain. You do not want this, people. Trust me. All right? So if you haven't gotten your vaccine and you have access to it, there are some states where, like, they have appointments and they're available. I live in California, Northern California, where everybody is climbing over each other trying to get a vaccination shot. But there are parts of the country where a lot of people are turning it down. If you're watching this, strongly encourage you to get vaccinated. If you don't believe me, ask your doctor, right? Talk to your primary care provider. Ask them if it's safe. Ask them if they've gotten it. And I think most of you will find that it will be a wise choice. With that, I am going to say goodbye, nerds. But before I do say goodbye, nerds, please, for this last second, if you haven't liked it, can you hook a brother up? And can you share it out? Because nerds content is not exactly as exciting as Mr. Beast giving away a free house. Someday, maybe we can do that. But in the meantime, we'll stick with the facts, with data, and fun conversation. So thanks, everybody, and thanks to all the members for supporting this channel. Click that join link. Oh, I did mention that I was going to shout out anybody who joined recently before we wrap up. So let me just quickly take a look-see in case we have anyone who joined since I last gave a shout-out. So we're going to refresh this maybe. Okay, see all. So our newest member is Warren Vaughn from Canada, is now a verified nerd. Thanks, Warren. See you guys later. Oops, that was supposed to end. Now I'll do it again. See you guys later. Goodbye, nerds!